Well, today we're going to discuss and review which Wednesday Night War show was better, AEW Dynamite or WWE's NXT. All of that will be discussed and talked and reviewed on this episode of Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Welcome everybody to Deleted Wrestle Zone, all things that is pro wrestling from AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, the National Wrestling Alliance, many promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, J-Rod here. So let's talk about the views and ratings, just to give you the heads up. As you know, this week, AEW Dynamite and NXT were in fact not only face-to-face, they were also competing for the NBA draft that was broadcast this week. So we'll see how it goes. So the winner of the Wednesday Night War is AEW Dynamite. So they received, with the viewership of 850,000 views, compared from last week, which was 764,000 views. So they got the rate of 0.37 in the 18 to 49 demographic. Last time it was 0.30 last week. Now let's compare this with NXT, how they did. They received the viewership of 638,000 views. Last week it was 632,000. So they went up a little more, but they got the rate of 0.14 in the 18 to 49 demographic. So basically, they still have been unable to reach the 1 million mark as we normally. But however, AEW did pretty good, and NXT, well, they rose up a little more. But of course, we cannot deny that there's been that AEW has put out a good show ever since Dynamite first started. So all of this is nothing like, how do we say, okay, AEW is better. They just put on a good show for us to entertain. If you guys are not fans of AEW, you better start watching and start comparing between both AEW and NXT. But like I said, the viewership was not only compete between them, it was in fact with the NBA draft, and also The Last Ride, which is the documentary that they had with The Undertaker, which we all know he's planned to retire. So let's talk about AEW Dynamite. Okay, first match of AEW, great opener, is Top Flight versus the AEW World Tag Team Champions, the Young Bucks, in a non-title match. I have to say it was pretty good. The dynamics of having two different brother teams, you got the Bucks and of course Top Flight. It's pretty amazing to see that, because it showed a lot of character with the Top Flight, that they are a team that we should take notice, because we have seen dynamics over the years with tag teams, you know. There's those who were formed like years before we see them who they are now, like the Road Warriors is for one. And then there's the brother types, you know, like the Hardys, the Bucks, and all that. So basically, that's one of the things I like. I like this match. It was pretty good. But the way it ended, it was pretty good to show that the Bucks, that they're should not take it lightly with Top Flight, because they learned that mistake with Private Party. So great match. The Bucks won the match. But however, the post match, the Hybrid 2 just attacked Top Flight for no apparent reason. I can guess, in story wise, that the Top Flight felt the Hybrid 2 felt like they were being overlooked by a group of wrestlers who are not even AEW, which is true. But we have seen Top Flight being on AEW Dark on multiple occasions. So we don't know what's going to happen in the near future. I mean, I would like to see Top Flight as one of the tag teams that should be on AEW, you know. And I hope you guys too feel the same way as I do. Then we have a little segment. Now, we have heard what's going on with the Inner Circle since they inducted MJF and Morlo into the Inner Circle. MJF paid a trip to take everyone to Las Vegas. It was so funny. It felt like they're doing something out of the Hangover films. You know, they're gambling, they're drinking, and there was a surprise with Conan showing up, like saying, "I got the best stuff." I'm assuming they were gaining high on drugs. And it's a funny moment where Conan tells Chris Jericho, "I think I see dragons. There is no such thing." And he tells him, "What is that?" "It is a dragon." It's kind of funny. And then there's a moment where Warlow and Hagar are beating people up. I think they're trying to see who has the bigger muscle or who's tougher than the two. I thought it was just too darn funny to see that, you know? I just laughed so hard. But it wasn't over from there. There is a part 2 that I'll get. It becomes a conclusion. But one thing that later, before AEW Dynamite started, there was a video that they throw in. I have to say it was pretty good. It was a thing called History of Revolution. Now, it's not like a name. It's because that's what AEW is, a revolution. Now, if you guys are well aware of the history, the reason AEW formed was to be the opposite of what WWE were back then. As you know, every wrestler's dream is to be in WWE, but what happens to those that don't make it? Some people say they're not good enough, they don't like their gimmick, and we've seen that already with several wrestlers. We've seen that with Luchasaurus, for one, and then Sammy, who tried out, who said that he wasn't even good enough. There's been wrestlers in that predicament that felt that way, you know, knowing that they turn them away because they don't see them as wrestlers, and they just do that. I mean, it's a pretty good video how they explain who they are. They're the underdogs, and they are here to have a revolution, to change the wrestling business forever. That's one thing we have noticed. So you should check it out. It's on their YouTube channel. Next up, we had, of course, Jon Moxley addressed about his thoughts over Kenny Omega, but he kind of let slip, and it's been announced officially since Dynamite that Renee Young, or Renee, whatever her last name's, I can't even pronounce it right, is expecting their first child together, which is congratulations to Jon Moxley and Renee. You know, you guys are gonna be great parents, and we're gonna see a little Moxley running around. So can't wait to see that. Now back to everything. Next up is a match between Orange Cassidy and Kip Sabian. This match came about when if you could recall, Kip Sabian was angry with the fact, if you remember, Trent was in a match against Miro, and Orange Cassidy was attacked by the Dark Order members, mostly from Silver, and Penelope Ford was in the middle of the way. And Kip blamed him that that it was his fault that he put Penelope Ford in danger. And he apologized to her, but in Orange's eyes, he felt like it wasn't his fault. He didn't know they were coming. So this match was set. It was a really, really good match. Even though it was like Kip wasn't going to allow him to put his hands in his pockets. But the biggest upset was the fact that Orange Cassidy beat him. And Miro, who has a temper, just showed up and started attacking him. And here comes the Best Friends to the rescue, which was a great ending to that. But is this far from over with those guys? I don't think so. It's just, we're probably not even warmed up much. Next up was supposed to be a contract signing for Winter is Coming between Jon Moxley and Kenny Omega on December 2nd of this year for the AEW World Title. Kenny comes out all dressed up but out of nowhere there was no Jon Moxley. He was attacked. They showed a cameras going to the backstage, and he was knocked unconscious, bleeding from the nose. No one who knows who it is. Even though Kenny actually did sign the contract, he wasn't going to just postpone or whatever. But that's what happened. But here's the thing that becomes the real question. who attacked Moxley. I can think of several people. One is most likely to me Lance Archer. Reason is he's determined to win the AEW World Title, and he felt that he should have been the one to obtain it. Two, Eddie Kingston, because it's far from over between what he felt it should be his and all that. But there is the one likely scenario, but I don't want to jump the gun, but I'm going to say it. It's Kenny. Reason I say it was because if you guys have noticed, Kenny is developing his cleaner attitude. This is the character that many fans wanted to see since Kenny joined AEW. And I have that predicament. What if that's the beginning of seeing Kenny becoming the cleaner? I don't know. But however, whatever the case is, we gotta see and wait what's gonna happen down the road. Now, the conclusion of the Inner Circle in Vegas, we see they all had a big hangover. Jericho wakes up next to Elvis. Then you see MJF coming out of a bathtub, finds Sammy Guevara lying down in a sort of like a pond or so, unaware that his face was covered in Sharpie, saying Sammy was here, he's soft. But when Sammy got out of the little pond, he looked in his ring finger, he sees he's married, and there was more rings. He sees pictures of himself, married with 3 different women. That was so hilarious. But Ortiz, oh my god, I don't know what the guy took, but he was all hyper up, like working out, like like I thought it was so crazy. But you do see in the background where Sammy and Ortiz were at, you see Hagar and lying down like dead ducks. I'm like, don't know what they took. But the best part is when Chris Jericho and Elvis comes in, he sees Santana feeding chickens in this one room. Elvis like, who let the farm animals in here? But later, all of a sudden, Jericho and Santana hear a crying baby, and you see Hornswoggle in a diaper. And it feels like one of those scenes that should have been in Hangover. I thought it was a great spoof. I just enjoyed it. I just loved it, So, and of course Jericho showed up saying, I got a big hangover, so I thought it was so hilarious. Now, before the next match started, it was Eddie Kingston coming out to the commentary. It became clear from a week ago we had Pac returned, and a match was set between him and The Blade. There were still a lot of questions in this match because we don't know how much ring rust Pac has since he was in isolation in the UK since the restrictions when the pandemic started. And that was always been one of those questions throughout the match. But I can say there is one thing that was strange. What's his name? Pac's main move, the broken arrow. He didn't do that. Instead, he did a shooting star press. I don't know if anybody noticed that. I just hope someone did, because it was unlike him to do that. I don't know if Pac felt that he was not confident enough to pull it off or whatever, but it did allow him to put up the brutalizer and having him win the match. Now, however, when the match was over, he tries to get Eddie's attention, but he was attacked by the Butcher, and he was telling him that he's just a sad story. But Rey Fenix all of a sudden just comes out and helps Pac. Now, somehow I predicted that those two would unite, but the real question is, when Penta showed up, was he going to side with Pac or stay with Kingston? And the answer to that question, he sided with Pac and his brother. So it reveals Death Triangle are back together, which is great. I mean, I think they're going to pick up exactly where they left off before this pandemic started. So I'm very happy. Now, While this was happening, the camera showed another angle. That new woman who verbally attacked Cody Rhodes last week, Jade Cargill, all of a sudden attacked Brandy Rhodes, and using a tactic that FTR did on Matt Jackson. And you have Vicky Guerrero and Nyla Rose running interference to ensure the refs do not get involved. She broke her hand, arm, whatever. And here comes Big Swole, Serena Deeb, and of course Red Velvet on her defense. So this is now a new interesting rivalry. Thing is, we don't know what Jade's intentions were. She comes out saying that Cody Rhodes insulted by calling himself a giant killer. That is kind of like, what the hell is this all about? So that's what's going. So we might see another feud. Now, the next match, we had the NWA World Women's Championship between Serena Deeb and former champion Thunder Rosa. I have to say, this match was pretty good. Now, there has been speculations over certain things. Because of this, there was a tweet made by Britt Baker calling her all this kind of stuff. And there was a prediction. One, they were going to ensure that Serena Deeb loses the match and Thunder Rosa wins, and Britt Baker will call her out for that title. But however, it was the opposite. It was Rebel who got in the way and ensured that Britt Baker did like a DDT or whatever on Thunder Rosa on the ring apron, on the ring ramp, and costing Thunder Rosa the match, but didn't for a while until it was finally over. Now, Thunder Rosa is well aware she lost the match, but not in the way she wanted it to go down. So she made a beeline towards Britt Baker, so it became a rivalry between them. So basically, this is going to be an interesting rivalry between both Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa. I can't wait to see this. But however, speaking of this, of women's championships, Anna Jay announced that she is going to get her hands on Hikaru Shida for a shot of the AEW Women's World Champion, saying that she remembers she lost to her, but this time she's grown up, that she is going to take that title from her. We'll just wait and see when that happens. So, I'm excited to see that. Now, let's get to the main event. It was Team Taz, Brian Cage, and Ricky Starks versus Darby Allin and Cody Rhodes. Now, much of the match you can see isolation between trying to separate one person to another, but it still wasn't enough, and Team Taz won. But the biggest shock happened right at post-match. You see Will Hobbs coming out, who we thought was there to save the day, but it became clear he turned heel. We had been aware that Taz has been trying to recruit him, but no answer. And it looked like the answer has finally been answered. He is now Team Taz. So there's still a lot of questions coming up. We probably will see that until next week. So right now, we're going to see how NXT did, what great moments they have. So we're going to do that right about now. Okay, so the opening for NXT started with the rematch between Leon Ruff, who is now the new NXT North American Championship, that he beat Johnny Gargano a week ago thanks to having his eyes turned while Damian Priest was there. Basically, he wanted this rematch, but however, the match was turned to a different direction where Damian Priest shows up and ensures that he embarrassed Johnny. So what he does, he pulls Leon Ruff, Johnny doesn't know what the hell he was doing, but however, he knew there was only one way to ensure Johnny doesn't get the title back, and he sucker punched Leon, saying, "I'm sorry." Gargano cannot believe that he got screwed, but however, there's still those that believe that Leon Ruff is a joke to become North American champion, even though Leon didn't see it that way. And that's how it was the entire time. So we'll get more into that in a bit. So basically, Johnny Gargano won the match, but via disqualification. So thanks to Damian Priest, Leon Ruff remains as the North American champion. Now, the next thing we see is a blindfold match, which was between Cameron Grimes and Dexter Lumis. Now, this happened a week ago where Cameron Grimes attacked Dexter Lumis blindfolding because he's too scared. But the best moment I liked about this match was Dexter Lumis was standing still. He wasn't making no noise. But however, he doesn't know where Dexter Lumis is. So he goes to every corner. He nearly tries to hurt the ref. And fans were trying to direct him where he was going. But there was a moment he actually did attack the ref without realizing it was the ref. He thought it was Dexter Lumis. So what happened is he tries to do the cave-in when he realized Dexter Lumis is still blindfolded. But the match didn't end it in a who won contest. Cameron Grimes just took off like he was scared, knowing that he doesn't want to be around to lose to a guy like him again. So it basically ended in a no contest type since the ref was out. Next match we have is a women's tag match. We have Kaden Carter and Casey Catanzaro facing off against Candice LeRae and, of course, Indy Hartwell. As you know, it's been announced that there's going to be a women's war games between Candice LeRae and Shotzi Blackheart. But, of course, we do know, I know for a fact, that for Candice LeRae, she already picked Indy Hartwell since she always had her back. But for Shotzi Blackheart, that is yet to be seen. So, the match was pretty good. There was still some great teamwork with Carter and Catanzaro, but however, the match didn't go exactly according to their way and ended with Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell picking up the victory on this one. So basically, we're getting close to the War Games and seeing what Candice LeRae can do on her own. As you all recall, Candice LeRae won the last year's War Games, but this time we'll see her as a heel, as opposed to the babyface we remember last year. Now, as you know, recently we had Kushida facing off the return of Arturo Ruas, who originally was supposed to be in Raw when they put him in that Raw Underground segment, but now he's back. But the biggest ending surprise is what I like is how Kushida was able to adapt, building a submission move to allow him to win. Now, some people can say, wow, he adapted. Of course, I mean, I'm impressed. I've always been a Kushida fan. I love him, the way he adapts to whatever situation is. And it's pretty good. I like it. Now, we had a backstage interview before their match, Ember Moon and Toni Storm. Now, they know right now, as you know, Ember Moon has been dealing with Dakota Kai. Now, Dakota Kai felt that Ember Moon is taking her spotlight away since she made her return. And as for Toni Storm, she's the new girl in town. Dakota Kai finds her like saying, she could be a threat. Because they all have one thing in common. Dakota Kai wants the NXT Women's Championship. Same thing with Storm and Moon. But however, now Moon and Storm made an understanding. We both want the title, but however, let's focus on the match. The match was pretty good too, seeing the women's division going this way. And I mean, I didn't expect how it's going to end. I did not expect that both Ember Moon and Toni Storm would win it, because they just form a team. But however, they were attacked by Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell, handing him over to Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez. So the initial assumption is Candice LeRae is opening up an olive branch to have these two to join her team for the War Games. We still haven't heard anything from Shotzi Blackheart who would join her. Now, it wouldn't take a betting man for me to guess who would be in her team. And I'll explain that to you guys in my final thoughts on that, because it would make an interesting point if you guys would agree with me. Now, the next thing we see, as we all heard that before that Finn Balor was going to make his appearance on his status ever since he was out due to a broken jaw. Pat McAfee and his cronies showed up, and they wanted to hear what he had to say. Pat McAfee has been going out saying that they are the coolest team, that everyone is dead, that the Undisputed Era is dead, that Drake Maverick and Killian Dane are dead, and so is Breezango, dead. So they were there just to see what Finn Balor had to say. So that's what happened. So we had to wait and see where they're going to go with it. Next match we had is Austin Gray versus his former mentor, Timothy Thatcher. As you know, Austin Gray had enough of Thatcher's bulliness during class sessions, so he tries to fight back. He used what he can to beat Thatcher. I mean, it was a pretty good way to show him, I'm sick of you trying to use me as a punching bag. So he tries to fight back. But however, there's an old saying, you can't beat the master because you still got a lot to learn. And that's exactly what happened with August Gray. But when the match ended in Thatcher's for Thatcher, he tries to punish more Gray, and here comes Tommaso Ciampa. Don't know what to make of it, but Thatcher replied saying to him, "I have no beef with you. I have no beef." But in this case, during a backstage interview, he made it obvious he wants to fight Timothy Thatcher. I'm like, why not? It would be good. I would like to see that. And I can't wait for that to happen. Now, Damian Priest was already scheduled to be in the match, but however, the match it did not start. He was being attacked by Gargano for payback for what happened earlier of the day. Then Leon Ruff shows up, piss off both Priest and Gargano. So I picture right now in this particular storyline, there's going to be a 3-way for the North American Championship. So I'm still picturing that right now, but we'll see how that goes when we get there. Now, as you all know, recently, Xia Li has been acting weird, getting letters from her family, but we just don't know why. Then Boa shows up, helping her out. A week ago, Boa told Rachel Gonzalez that Xia Li was not there. But we saw this mysterious dude comes out marking his hand. No idea what that means, but I forgot what it was that they called it. Now, Regal was able to track down Boa, telling him that he needs to be at the PCW. And he replying, "She's coming. Xia Li hasn't been seen," but he said, "No, Xia Li is in hiding. She's coming. She's coming." So basically, we don't know what that means. I mean, we're expecting a villainous figure, a female to do this. I'm not sure, but it's like one of those mystery things we have to solve. I don't know what it means, but I'm kind of curious, I'm curious to see how that goes. Now, the next up we have is the NXT Women's Championship. Now, many people in the back were voting for Rhea Ripley. Others were voting for Io Shirai. Who did I root for? Well, to be honest with you, I was biased. They're both great competitors, but this match, I have to say, best women's match ever in this one. I loved it so much. It showed okay, Io Shirai, she wants to determine to be the best. Rhea Ripley has been a dominant force in the past, trying to gain her confidence after losing the NXT title to Charlotte Flair back in WrestleMania. But it was so good. I loved it. But who won the match? It was the Genius of the Sky. It was a great match. I have to say, this is one of the best matches that I've ever witnessed in my life. I loved it. But now we get to the good stuff after the match. Here comes Finn Balor. Balor was giving his status on what's going on since his injury. But all of a sudden, that hosebag Pat McAfee telling him that, we killed everyone. So he's telling him, do the smart thing. Hand over that title to us, and you will die. But however, Finn Balor told him that there some sort of a look what the cat dragged in phrase or something like that. So unaware to Pat McAfee and company, it's the return of the Undisputed Era. They came back with the vengeance against Pat McAfee and everyone else. It was so great. I loved the ending, but I wish they would have aired what happened at the end when they went off air. You can see this on the exclusive on WWE. What happened is they were able to separate Pat McAfee and his buddies away from Undisputed Era. Here comes William Regal. But Adam Cole was telling him, do the right thing. Say it. Do the right thing. So Regal was like looking at both teams. And he says, War Games. And I was like, yes, 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 yes. So we got a War Game match. We got Undisputed Era versus Pat McAfee and his buddies. This is going to be a great rivalry showdown. I can't wait to see. I hope you guys love that. I have to say, the ending was great. Seeing Undisputed Era coming back with the vengeance against Pat McAfee. So, let's talk about my final thoughts right now. Okay, so who do I feel won was the better show? Now, I have to say, certain matches from both sides were great, but I feel the edge goes to me, in my personal opinion, AEW. One, they ended great with the start with a tag team match between Top Flight and the Young Bucks. And then you had the contract signing where, okay, who attacked Moxley? So it became kind of interesting to go with. And then we had the soon rivalry between both Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker, which is something I feel it's going to be a great story, a great feud that we are going to enjoy. And what else? And all that. And I feel like there's been some great things. And of course, the rivalry with Jade and Brandy is going to be very, very interesting to follow because, and I feel like AEW had the better edge. Now, with NXT, with the opening, I have to say it was okay. I'm not going to say it's one of the greatest. It was okay. I feel they could have done something more with it, but it didn't. But I have to say, and I agree with the Square Circle Psychobabble. They mentioned this, I don't remember, was it today or last night, that they felt that the edge went to the women's division on both sides. And to me, I felt like they did. Not because they say so. I rewatched the whole thing. If you look at it this way, you have Thunder Rosa in the match against Serena Deeb unable to get her title back, but thanks to the interference of Britt Baker and then starting a feud with her. And then Jade, who started a feud with Brandy as in payback for getting in her face last week. I have to say there are some great storylines in that. And as for NXT, the War Games things, I have to say it's also a top thing to be discussed. You know, you have Candice LeRae. We know she has Indy Hartwell by her side. And then she reached out to Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez. But the women's title match was great. I have to say, the women's division did a great job on this one. Even though the Jade and Brandy were not in a match together, but it did show that we could see a possible feud between them. Now, some of you can say, you know, like, especially the WWE fans who can say, no, NXT was better. Like, I would agree with you. But if you pay attention to both shows, you get the feeling. But that's how I feel right now. I feel NXT had AEW had the better show. But however, both women's divisions from both sides did an amazing job with their matches and storylines. I have to say that made a perfect combination for both. Because I know there's been criticism from many critics about AEW's women's division. And I get that. I know there's a lot of frustrations over that. But we cannot deny what's been going on. So, So I think that's what I got right now for all of you guys. So stay tuned later. I may have the next video with continuation of New Japan Pro Wrestling. And the next one I'm going to review Ring of Honor, NXT UK, then 205 Live, and of course NJPW Strong. And hopefully there'll be more to come than that. So I must bid all of you guys adieu. So goodbye. Mwah. And have a nice day. Bang!